You've tuned into the Relationship Therapy Podcast with Tony Miller Sr., a podcast designed for couples who are married, couples who are dating, and have marriage in their future. We will guide you to the principles that will make your relationship better. Stick around. You might just learn something that will help your relationship last longer, grow stronger, and become healthier. Now, here's your host, Tony Miller Sr.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Relationship Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Miller Sr. Today, I want to ask you a question. What if somebody came up to you and asked you, how is your relationship going? How is your marriage going? And then they even took that question a little bit deeper and said, personally, how would you judge your part of the relationship? Will you be able to judge their question or judge yourself? What would you say your score would be? I know every partner looks at what they do in their relationships and they have different scores because each mate is looking for something altogether different. I've been married long enough to understand that. But really, when you think about it, how would you look at your score as a married man, as a married woman? How would you gauge your score? You know, when we talk about gauge, there's gauges everywhere that show you that something needs to take place. There's gauge for gas tanks to let you know how much gas is in your car or how little gas is in your car. It lets you know if it's too little, you need to put some more fuel in the tank. Or there's some gauges for air in your tire. If your air is too low, the gauge will tell you that it's too low and you need to add some more air. How about gauging your relationship? And that's what we're going to talk about today, the relationship gauge. Because everything has a gauge, everything has a score. How would you score yourself? And here's the categories. First thing that we want to talk about in the relationship gauge is examine your performance as a spouse. Now, before your minds get too deep into a gutter, I'm not talking about in the bedroom. I'm not talking about sexually. I'm talking about your actual performance in the marriage. In the crucial aspects of the marriage, are you showing up like you're supposed to be? I know you're there. But are you there emotionally? Are you there mentally for your significant other? Do you bring more love into the relationship than you did when you first started? I often tell couples that marriage is not 50-50 like all the time which you used to hear. Marriage is actually 100-100. Because if somebody slacks off to 80%, you still have over 100% going for you. So I ask you, are you just there in the marriage? Or are you contributing something that makes the marriage work and makes it even better? Or are you not engaged in the relationship? You're just so pleased that you're in this marital relationship that you just stop right there. So you have to examine your performance as a spouse. But then the second thing we need to gauge is what effort do you bring to the relationship? What effort? What are you just so content in being right where you are, or are you constantly trying to bring new ideas and new ways to communicate and new ways to experience each other as a couple? And these ideas will add a different flavor to your relationship. Or is your relationship just standing still because you don't have any effort being brought to it? Or are you bringing a lot of effort and it's moving forward? How do you gauge yourself on that? Are you going halfway? In other words, giving just your 50%? Or are you all the way? Are you all in your relationship? I know each spouse has a role to play in their particular relationship. And some spouses don't require the same type of effort. I understand that. But are you just sitting back, resting on what you've already done? Or are you doing different things to spice up the relationship? I believe your effort will mean a whole lot to your significant other. So we looked at examine your performance as a spouse. We've already looked at what effort do you bring to the relationship. And finally, we want to talk about, are you a good example of a good spouse? Are you a good example of a good spouse? You know, when other people are looking at you, are they seeing a good spouse? A good spouse who has a good performance? A good spouse that's bringing effort? Or are you just an ordinary spouse? You shouldn't settle for average. You should want your significant other to brag about you to their friends. What about children? If you have children, I ask this all the time to people. Are you the type of spouse, if you're a husband, are you the type of husband that you want your daughter to marry? Or if you're a wife, are you the type of wife that you want your son to marry? That's something to think about. You've got to make sure that you are a good example. You got to put forth more effort. You got to make sure your performance is tight. Let me tell you a quick story about me. I know when I first got married to Valerie, I wanted to be the type of spouse that was so good to their spouse that they would brag to their friends. That's the type of husband I wanted to be. I wanted my wife to brag to her friends on how I treated her and how I did things for her and all the bells and whistles of a good husband. So much so that her friends' husbands would be upset with me. Now, I'll say somewhere along the line I've dropped the ball a little bit, but I keep reminding myself of that promise. Don't forget that you are a spouse for a reason. You're not just there to be there. You have a significant other, and you should be doing everything you can to make that relationship work. And not just work, but make it even better than what it was. Every day should be a new day in your relationship. So keep on trying, keep on putting forth effort, keep on being the example, and keep on examining yourself inside the relationship. That's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've got some feedback for me, please don't hesitate to email me at tmrelationshiptherapy@gmail.com. Until next week, always remember, it takes two to make a relationship work. Listen to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Relationship Therapy Podcast with Tony Miller Sr. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. Tune in next time for more insight on how to make your relationship better. If you have any questions, please email us at tmrelationshiptherapy@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, remember, It takes two to make the relationship work.